Breaking Through by Brenda Smith, Chapter 7, Test-Taking Strategies. Understanding major question types, vocabulary. Obviously, vocabulary and terms are going to be on every standardized test you can think about, and it's going to be specific to that class you are taking. So common questions, figure out the meaning with context clues, meaning what are the clues around the surrounding word that you do not understand what the word is, and be careful words that have multiple meanings. So an author may ask you about a term or a vocabulary that if you look it up in a dictionary, it could have 5 different meanings to that word. Make sure the meaning you choose fits in with the context of that particular sentence and paragraph, and don't just choose the first meaning that's listed in the dictionary because that could throw you. Make sure the meaning fits the word and fits the context and fits the passage, because always when you're dealing with vocabulary and terminology, your professor wants to test you to make sure you understand not only the meaning but how it's used appropriately in that sentence. Types of test passages. Now that we've talked about the various questions that are super common in standardized tests, what kind of types of test passages typically will you be reading? Well, factual passages, information that has to do with facts and statistics, opinion passages, maybe they're editorials or essays or short stories, or fiction passages, meaning passages that are not real. They're not based on any type of facts, statistics, they're storytelling, and this is usually associated with novels, or it could be essays or short stories as well. Hints for taking multiple choice and true and false tests. Now that you know what kind of questions are probably going to be asked and what kind of passages will probably be offered, how do you better guess in multiple choice and true and false tests, especially if you're not positive the answer? Well, read all the options. You would be surprised how many people read option A and B, forget about C and D, and just choose based on gut. You have to read all options because there may be an answer that's more correct than the correct one, okay? Predict the correct answer. Before you look at the answers, close your eyes and think, what's the answer? Try to match that answer in your head with the options available. That kind of doubles up on your possibility of getting it right. Avoid answers with 100% words. 100% words are like always, never. I mean, how often is an always and how often is a never? Almost never. So avoid those words. They are tricks. You have to use words that deal more with qualifying words. Sometimes all, none, few, etc. That is a better consideration. A lot of times it's a pitfall or a trap to use 100% words like never and always. Stay clear of them. Do not overanalyze. Go with your first gut feeling. Statistics has showed that your first feeling about an answer is the right feeling about an answer. So if you go back and change, a lot of times you'll get it wrong if you change it later. True statements must be true without exception. If it's true, it must be 100% ironclad true. If it's 99.9%, it's false. So true must be true without exception. That's why you will not see many true answers. You will see way more false answers. So be very wary when you choose true, because it needs to be 100% true, not mostly true. Hints for taking multiple choice and true and false questions. Continuing. If two options are synonymous, eliminate both. What does that mean? They're synonyms. So you have A and B that say the exact same thing, only they use a different word, but the words mean the same. It's a trap. Cancel them out and don't choose either. Figure out the difference between similar options. So if you have C and D left and one says never and the other one says sometimes, Use sometimes, because never say never, right? Go with words that are a little more qualifying than words that are absolute. That's a way to compare and contrast two different options you have left. Use logical reasoning if two answers are correct. Go with your gut. What sounds more accurate and what sounds like it would match up with the material more? Look suspiciously at directly quoted pompous phrases. Often us professors love to put in a quote that's highly emotional because we know it will distract you. So if you see a highly emotional, arrogant quote, it's typically a distraction and you probably want to avoid it. Simplify double negatives by canceling out both. So if it says no, never, or none, no one, that is incorrect grammar, first of all. And second, cancel it out because it's a trap. So don't use that option. Some questions do not have clues. So that means you're just going to have to go off logic and reasoning. Sometimes you can't really use deductive reasoning and figure it out. You may want to put a circle next to that word or question and then come back to it later after you finish all the other questions, because maybe you could find clues in other questions that are posed later on in the test, and that will help you with that question that you didn't understand. So always mark the questions you're not sure about so you can review them at the end with the last couple minutes you have, just to make sure that you didn't learn something else during that test taking process. Hints for taking multiple choice and true or false tests. Continuing. Validate true responses. So remember, it has to be 100% true for it to be true. Recognize flaws in test making. Now, professors are human. We make mistakes. Always feel free to question your professor during the test process if you see something that is odd or suspicious. Eliminate responses that do not have subject-verb agreement. If your professor is writing incorrect, grammatically incorrect sentences, it's typically a trap and you should avoid that answer. Use clues from other parts of the test. See if you can find information from other questions to help answer the question you don't know. Longer answers are more frequently correct. Be careful, sometimes that is true. Avoid absurd ideas and emotional words in the options. Remember, we love to use emotion because it's a distractor. So it's highly emotional words or quotes. Stay clear of that. So these are some things that you want to stay clear of. And typically professors know they're doing this, but they want to draw you in. If you are confused, like the first one with the subject-verb agreement error, you may want to ask your professor about that. It could have been a legitimate error, but probably the professor did it on purpose because we should know by now how to match our subject and verb. So typically it would be just a mistake on purpose to draw you to the wrong answer.